Yeah, so here we are. I am in a far better mood. Just eat some food, and it's just damn. I hate to start the day with my mother giving me shit for no fucking reason. It's ugh. Anyway, I love it. Let's continue. I had my rant. I'm not going to apologize for what I said. I had to say what I had to say, and I feel so good. I got that off my chest. I feel like I can think clearly now. Um, There's some amazing stuff happening, and basically, what I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be taking you through all of these things I've been noticing take place. And thanks to all of these events, it's painted a very clear picture in my mind of quite soon where it is I feel that Earth shall be heading. In order to get to this conclusion, I had to remove a lot of conspiracy stuff out of my mind and keep the stuff that's real. I'm not saying every conspiracy is fake, but most of them are. The real conspiracies are just the banking, birth certificate slave system, the genocide, and so forth and so on. Which are more factual than anything else. I don't think we should call them conspiracies at this point. It doesn't really actually make any sense. Let's just call it what's happening right now that we are aware of. So, when with the whole jabbity jab thing, well, I just thought to myself, it would be so impossible to hide the damage caused by that. And can you imagine the amounts of poor people who have had one of their loved ones like snatched from them? You know, and it's sad. We couldn't really expect everyone to know that they should not listen to their government or trust their government all the time. Unfortunately, people are too trusting. Unfortunately, it's like it's a blessing and a little bit of a curse currently now, because it would be great to be super duper trusting. If everyone was trustworthy, that would be an absolutely fabulous world we would live in. And it would be great if people weren't so offended. We live in a world where people are so offended. And it's nothing new. This has been the case for ages, where people get offended so easily. Like something you could wear could offend someone, something you could say, etc., so forth and so on. Anyway, besides the points, most importantly, if we look at the situation realistically, what it is we see is, unfortunately, many unaware people, unaware to the truth. And, I don't want to hate people, although I have my days where I get so angry with the idea of humans on Earth. I'll be so totally honest with you. But the truth is that, like, humans make life great just as much as everything else makes life great. But when there's this complete and total imbalance built upon a mindset and society built upon corruption, like one way or another, that corrupts everyone. It one way or another corrupts everyone somehow or another. Whether we become too sensitive or too offended, um, or whatever gets in the way of people getting along with each other ultimately, and not having any unnecessary altercations, because that's what humans are used to, continually having altercations with others. So it's safe to say that we haven't learned as a species how to but it's like this conversation can go anywhere. So this is why I like to stay on the priority, because the priority is like, listen, people are asleep. There's mass genocide happening on the earth. No matter how you look at it, that's what's happening. And what I see happening is I see these systems, all of them, failing. And I'm not just saying the financial system or whatever. I'm saying everything looks like it's going to come to some sort of grinding halts one way or another. I'm talking about our way of life. I'm talking about the fact that as humans sit on this earth and do business in order to count coins, and it's really ridiculous where we're at right now currently, uh, in in comparison to where we could be. But nonetheless, that is the reality. That is the reality. But fortunately enough, what I see is I do see great change happening within everyone in one way or another. And I have seen great change happen to people. I think people have learned to drop their guards more. I think people have also, hey, my little bird friend. Hey, hey, hey. They've learned to drop their guard. They've learned to not get so caught up on all this stuff that they thought mattered so much that actually does not matter at all. And most of the stuff that I'm speaking about is the stuff that makes humans unhappy, which is the sad irony of it all. This fast-paced lifestyle that's been painted for us, this American dream or whatever you want to call it. It could be anything at this point because it's all over the world, this mindset. But I don't see it lasting very long, to be honest with you. And that's one of the big things I see in regards to the change that's happening is that people are, one way or another, are being forced to look at life differently. And ultimately to look at all the difficulties we face together as a people, because we are all together in this. I mean, if there is a section of humanity that's suffering, the rest of humanity should have pitched in ages ago to help. But they haven't, because the culture does not give space for that possibility. But thank goodness it's not up to the culture, right? This is more up to nature, okay? Because this is what I see. I see huge natural phenomenon taking place. And I'm going to go through some of that natural phenomenon right now here with you as I use my screen recorder to pinpoint some events that are currently taking place here on Earth right now, as I say this. So it's very hard to participate in any aspect of reality when there's just like, basically, guys, I see all this shit, the poverty, the slavery, because these are the real issues: the child trafficking, the pedophilia, the hypersexualization of humans/people. Although I don't think sexuality is bad at all, by the way, but I just don't think it should have anything to do with kids. I don't think kids should be exposed to all this stuff when they're so young. These billboards, these radio ads, and these innuendos, these hidden innuendos, and so forth and so on. Even in the music these kids are listening to. I think there's something pretty disturbing about that. I think that the people who are behind us have no regard at all for the mind of a child, which is, the most. Children's minds are so valuable in so many ways. And because they're so valuable, they really should be cherished and harnessed. Because if you go ahead and distort children's minds, like, you don't realize the implications of what you're doing, because it's so evil, actually. It's really actually so evil. These people who have been engineering these parapsychological campaigns are really actually so evil. And it's just, and they want to blame it on Satan. It's not Satan. It's a bunch of rich globalists who really are perverted and distorted in their mind, who somehow think that they're able to do what they want to do without any consequences whatsoever. But I just want to point out the scale and damage as to which it is these people cause. They cause major damage, psychologically, mentally, physiologically, it's trauma, the amount of trauma caused by these people. And trauma is not something that should be taken so lightly. Our society for a very long time has overlooked these things, has overlooked the sensitivity of the mind of man. And not only that, we ridiculed trauma, we ridiculed victims, we ridicule, not myself, I'd never do that, but I'm saying like society ridiculed victims of trauma. So it's really messed up what they do. Like they give you trauma and then they make movies about people fighting these people, and then they give you more trauma in the movies they make, like as if giving you trauma wasn't enough in the real world. Like they have to give you trauma in your imagination too. So, the consequences of such wide scale destruction and complete like there's no regard for human life in this picture I'm painting. They have no regard for human life. They have no regard at all. And for life at all in general. They have no regard for life. And because of that, the effects of what they're doing sorry, give me a sec. It's a situation that cannot be compensated for because the scale of the damage is so vast. And it's ironic, it's funny to think that these people think there's no realm of consequence beyond their current perception. There's always a realm of cause and effect. I don't know how they overlooked this, but I suppose it's been because the psychology of man has been corrupted in some ways, in many ways. Don't ask me how, I don't know. All I know is that, and I know there's beautiful people out there, that are just simple, beautiful beings, but it hurts me when I have to hear them compare themselves with this image that Hollywood and this completely fabricated fake Western world has painted. Because time and time again, it makes these people overlook their own worth. And what I was communicating earlier before was that like these religious practices, as well as all these ideologies, are extremely dangerous because they belittle and dehumanize people so much. And the subsequent byproduct of that is the fact that humans feel worthless, which is really sad because they're using a litany of criteria in order to assess whether or not they are blessed or not. It's very dangerous, actually. And I would go ahead and to say that even so-called Christians do that. They look at poor people as though they are cursed by God. But the truth is that that's not actually the case. That they're cursed by man, continually keeping these people in a perpetual state of just total loss of dignity, human dignity, and self-respect. And so, the economic consequences of what it is I'm describing are so vast because they don't only echo in our realm of physicality, they echo with, it's just, the butterfly effect is real, very real. But the reverberations of each flutter go beyond what it is we know and what it is we are able to calculate within regards to why it is that things happen the way they happen. Fortunately enough, what I do see is a raising in consciousness. I think that's left a lot of people feeling quite frantic because it's opened the door for many new potentialities and explanations within regards to reality fluttering through people's minds, which is great that people are opening their minds. But I would be lying if I said that there was not a potentiality for some risks and dangers, because any ideology can turn out to be dangerous. It just depends who's at the helm, who's steering the ship, and who's ultimately influencing everyone. So I would hope and I would imagine that in a utopia world that people are not so concerned about influencing others, but more so concerned about experiencing others. Because in one way or another, people feel as though they would like to influence someone else in some way to get them to do this or get them to do that in order to align with their belief systems and so forth and so on. But it's a very dangerous way of living life because it prevents life from being organic. It brutally sterilizes everything and really takes the joy and the reality and pleasure out of things. So I do see I do see something absolutely historical taking place. And really what that is in my eyes is the consciousness explosion, where people are starting to feel more. I mean, it's one thing to be able to think about all these theories and so forth and so on, but most importantly, what we should be doing is feeling, because we've been so absolutely cut off from our feelings. Whether you're living in a city and it's the bustling noises and then people who just can't keep quiet. Like you watch the TV and then you want to turn the TV off, but you can't even turn the TV off, can't even turn the news off because somewhere or another you hear about this in one way or another. Anyway, so I just want to show you and this is just how I feel what's going to happen. For me, actually, the way I look at it, it seems like something is inevitably going to happen, something huge. It's like you've piled all this energy into this action. And it's going to have a counter reaction. It's going to have a counter reaction. You can't just do stuff and expect there to be no consequential counter reaction. But reality doesn't work like that. I don't know how long it is people have thought reality works, but reality doesn't work like that. Like sooner or later, people are going to have to pay the piper, one way or another. You can't take from Earth. Take. We want to take from Earth. Can't take from Earth.
Comes the rain, bro. Yo.
You're gonna die.
Yeah. First of all, you can keep this one.
No.
Oh, so what's gonna use, Jesse? You are alone with the O's there. You say,
Okay.
You can make a plan. Put some sticks there.
Okay.
Anyway, let me light the volume.
Yeah.
Shut up. This corn can be refilled.
You can refill it.
You think so? That's fine.
But I was also using the gas here with the lighter. But you'll leave me with it. Thanks, man. Okay, thanks, brother. So as I was saying, all these elite people are at a deficit, an energetic deficit, hugely so. Um, and energy is a reality. It always has been, but now it's more of a reality than it's ever been because we see this because of how fluid reality is starting to become and how much more fluid our minds are becoming and the minds of others. So within that fluidity, we begin to see that, we begin to see very obvious patterns of kind of reactions that would take place when you would go forward and do something so heinous as ultimately screw over billions of people on the earth and animals and future generations to come. It's like, whoa, that is bad karma. And but greed, the greed of man in each lifetime can somehow lead them to believe that they are free of karma. Because otherwise, I can't really explain how. I don't. It's as though they really, truly, and totally believe that there are no consequential kind of reactions that would happen based on any reaction made. Like everything has a kind of reaction. And now, with this current time we're in, which is a very rare time to be in, I would say, considering looking back at history, because we have information, we have internet, we have increased connectivity, we have had, gratefully, a better way in which to communicate the fact that we are all human, we are all one. And the fact that that exists within the human psyche as it stands right now is exceptionally important, especially considering where our supposed history has essentially come from, shrouded in division, created amongst nations, tribes, tongues, religions, so forth and so on. And it's funny because it really has these boxes that people have had themselves in have ultimately reaffirmed and reinstated the fact that these people were ultimately divided all over the world. Like it's weird, actually, to be totally honest with you, how we would even ever land up in that position. But I would say that it's quite interesting to say because, like, from basically what we see, it's so interesting. I don't know. I feel like this is the beginning of the story of Earth in many ways. I feel like this, and it's a story that's been happening apparently as long as time itself. One tyrannical leader and dictator after the next. But the difference within where it is that we are now is that people are consciously being awoken in ways that are getting them to feel more and look at their life differently and look at life differently and look at life for what it is as opposed to what people are trying to tell you it is. And of course, with that comes a deep sense of spirituality. What spirituality means, well, that's a very vague term, but let's just go ahead and call it the human spirit, the human consciousness, the ability to feel. And I would say that now, I don't want to say humans have never had compassion. Humans have had compassion, but I suppose ignorance has been the most dangerous factor behind why it's just so hard to put your finger on. You try to ask yourself, why is the world like this? I try to explain it. I'm trying to explain it to you, but sometimes I'm like, I can't even explain it to myself. But when I do try to explain it to myself, I see it as an evolution. I don't believe the consciousness of man can expand and then de-evolve. I don't believe that to be possible. I don't believe that once humanity's mind is open, that it can be closed. Because once one mind opens, many minds open. Once one person is able to feel, many people are able to feel. And what we are transgressing and moving through is this huge moments in consciousness that is leading us to a reality which no longer presents to us the limitations in which it is that we have been so used to, the same limitations that have shaped and molded our lives and caused many of our stresses, our anxiety, and our inability to connect to others and to see that connection take place within the world amongst many different people of different tribes, tongues, and so forth and so on. But I'll tell you what, Earth, from what I can tell, has been an extremely tribal. It's rooted in tribalism. And tribalism and paganism go together hand in hand, funnily enough. I feel like when I look at Christianity, it is really terrible what they did in the name of God and the Bible. So much so that you kind of question it a lot because, like, do you know how many indigenous tribes were killed in the name of Christianity and their ancient understandings of God and spirit and life completely squashed and non-existent, nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be heard? Because at the end of the day, it comes down to might is right in terms of who has been determining what has been happening in history. You know, I look at things like slavery and I look at all these things, and sometimes I just don't know how a human could do that. How could you make someone else your slave? Like, what has to be going through your head in order to think it's okay to make someone a slave? Or to go ahead and murder someone's family and their village and their tribe and go destroy everything? I would love, it's like this caveman mentality. I don't think humans have evolved at all because, these Europeans that had gone around and did whatever they did and massacred many people. And this is coming back to white people ultimately. Because at the end of the day, it's been white people that have ultimately butchered and fucking destroyed everything. Now, and their whole cities and nations rallying behind them, behind insanity. And I wondered to myself, reality must have been very dead. It must have been very dead in the hearts and minds of man, because I just don't get it. I just don't get how people can have no feeling at all. Just because of their religion tells them that it's okay, and this tells them that okay. Yeah, but like when the evil's happening in plain sight, is it okay then? Obviously, I'm not saying white people are evil. I don't believe that. I believe that white people, unfortunately, have been led by evil people for a very long time who have heavily influenced the thoughts and thinking, somehow thinking that it's okay to command and conquer and conquest regions and kill native people in order to gain control and power. It's just having absolutely no consideration towards those people, their story, their life, their family, their feelings. So I do believe in an afterlife because I would hope that all those people would find salvation one way or another. And I don't think it has to do with whether or not they will accept Christ as their Lord and Savior or not. I really don't. Because that is so deterministic. It doesn't take so many things into consideration. You know, you could get an indigenous tribe like you had in Native America that were absolutely wiped out. What were their beliefs? But it just so happened that the people that were strong enough to wipe out the smaller people, it was their religion that won. You wouldn't know about Christianity if it wasn't for all the warfare that came behind it. If the Roman army didn't use it, didn't champion it, Rome would not exist. You would not know about Christianity. If they didn't champion it the whole time, you wouldn't know about it. If slavery didn't exist, or if slavery didn't happen, you wouldn't know about it, basically. And that's the stark truth. Because even in South Africa, when the colonizers came here, they killed African people, destroyed their own understanding of reality and life that they had acquired themselves, and then ultimately put churches all over the place on their own ancient sites. And had destroyed the people and caused generations of trauma. You know, I'm not just talking just the slaves that were taken and the entire villages that were brutally murdered and the wars that were funded by Europe and so forth and so on, getting the African people to fight themselves as well. King Shaka is a classic example of that. Close to me, there's a river here called Tugela River. 20,000 people died in one day, 20,000 African people, because the British had somehow convinced a warmonger, King Shaka, to basically attack the Zulu monarch at the time, which was which were made up of very peaceful diplomatic people. Anyway, besides that, you're talking about generations of trauma, you know, and that trauma it carries through the minds of man more than anything. And then that gets transferred onwards. And myself, many times when I look down on humans, which I don't feel too good about doing now, it's because eventually I take the time to realize, like, we're dealing with generations of trauma here and generations of a certain set psyche. And trauma, lots of it. And I do feel that a lot of the trauma has healed and is healing. I feel like in the 30 years I've been alive, many traumas have healed and are continuing to do so. not in myself, but I mean, noticing around me, because I grew up in a South Africa country affected by apartheid. My mother and my family was affected by apartheid. Um, and it did. Based in my life, it caused. I was. I noticed many traumas, and how could there not be? Because to do that to people is absolutely horrible. To separate them from each other, number one, and then to class them, and then to essentially deem them as unequal. It's the amount of psychological trauma that may provide. I'd always wondered, you know, but it doesn't seem to get the black people down, African people. So they've been a very resilient people. And quite frankly, to me, have been quite inspiring to watch. And I believe that I learned a lot by watching them, actually. I'd learned how to be better and be more rooted and happier with what it is that I have. More grateful. I try. And I have a lot to be grateful for, of course, compared to many situations and circumstances. My situation is really okay compared to what a lot of people have experienced and are experiencing out there. They're incomparable, and that's what I don't know. Knowing people are suffering really gets to me so bad, and then knowing that rich people are doing nothing about it, and then are the cause of the suffering. That even gets to me even more. I'll be honest. So it's not all doom and gloom, fortunately, because there's a huge spiritual aspect to our being and our existence. And based on what I've seen, I really don't believe reincarnation exists, to be honest with you, which I'm very happy to know. Because I don't think reality is that cruel to give you life and then for your life to vanish and then all of a sudden be reset because you need to go back to the realm of suffering in order to learn how to suffer more. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. I really don't think God would what I believe God to be, the great spirit of all. I believe that it's a lot more loving and kinder than that. I don't believe that people are subjected towards being rinsed and recycled and placed in yet another life to suffer. I don't believe that. Because in many ways I would say that we're so much more than human. I think that being human is actually like having one lifetime is like a launch pad. Because when you die, you die. You don't come back into a body. You don't do that. You transform into another body, then you keep going, actually. But to be alive is great. On earth, that is. Because at the end of the day, we are faced with all of these things to think about. And they give reality, in many ways, so much more meaning, which I think is divine in itself. based on what I've experienced, I see a very different picture from what I imagined all those years ago. And when I say different picture, I mean my comprehension of what reality ultimately is. And thanks to that, that's brought a lot of relief towards me, because it has alleviated many anxieties and fears in which it is that I had. But based on what I've seen, I would say that reality is so much more magical than I ever imagined. Seriously. And in many ways, that magic is staring us, hiding in plain sight. And when I speak of magic, I speak of what I call divinity. And for me, divinity is like, how do you get all of these elements in reality that somehow all interlink and give purpose and meaning to each other? And how do events unfold? It's just, I don't know, like, and the numbers and the synchronicity and all of it. It's quite magical. And I think that throughout all the traumas that life has presented, because all I can account for is my life now. I cannot account for any other life other than my own. And in this life, when I was born, I only imagined reality being very deterministic and fixed. And as I grew older, well, my curiosity grew and I learned more. But my personality was one which is very excitable. So I would play with ideas and concepts and ideas and beliefs very quickly. So I'd take beliefs and then get rid of them quite quickly. So many times I would seem contradictory to the beliefs in which it was that I seemed like I was trying to hold on to. Because my beliefs change all the time. But they have throughout my whole life. They've changed throughout my whole life. But now they seem to be far more consolidated and a lot more clearer in picture. Holy shit. In terms of what it is I'm seeing, like, I care what is the point of this. I care when will be the resolution and an end to suffering, which is great, but it's not great. Obviously, it's not great. I don't know, based on what I've seen, guys, all of my beliefs have been destroyed. The beliefs that I hold on to before. I still believe in the core main things, like goodness, being free, and utopia, and eternity, and happily ever after, and so forth. So I believe in it. And nothing's going to change my mind. I believe that as awful as things seem to be right now, we are in an incredible time to be alive. And the reason I say that is because in this stage of my life, I have experienced so many unexplainably mystical things, okay, that have first freaked me out, first freaked the living shit out of me out, to be honest, because I don't know what was going on. my, my idea of reality was so fixed that when all of these spontaneous things started happening, they really questioned every single one of my beliefs. And it was extremely painful. It was like a literal death, but a long, slow death. Agonizing and completely fearful because it was literally like Alice in Wonderland. So anyway, but the point is that after what I've seen in my waking life, my waking sober life, I'm blown away actually, to be honest with you. Like sometimes I get frustrated and stuff, but based on what I've seen, I'm blown away. I'm blown away. I've been mind fucked so much. It is insane. I am blown away. I never expected reality to be what I've just experienced. I would catch myself saying so many times, like, I would never expect it in a million years. This to be happening. Never. I'd never even believe it was possible. There's no fucking ways. Like there's certain stuff I know that I can't say here. I can't speak right now. I just can't. Because it's not wise for me to go and say about certain information for whatever implication that may have. But I can tell you this though. Wow. Reality is completely not at all what I thought it was. At all. And that's pretty promising. I feel pretty light when I say that because I can't explain it to you. I see magic. I see magic. And it's beyond anything I ever thought was possible. That's what I'm trying to say. By the way, who's here in the chat, by the way? Drop a comment. Let's know who's here. So I know who I'm talking to. Whoa. Strong lighter. Yeah, I'm just seeing absolute magic. Magic's the only word I have for it now, to be honest with you. Actually, magic's the most comfortable word I feel like using because there were times where it was fucking terrifying. I'm not going to lie. It was full-blown terrifying. I'm still good and all saying, oh, magic and stuff. Holy crap, to get to this point, I went through terror. And it was so bad, I truly did not think it would end. It was so bad. Like, it was a completely visceral experience, inside and out. And it introduced unbelievably new sensations. Actually, I'm not going to get into that. There's a lot of stuff I need to skip over and not mention. But wow, reality is not what I thought it was at all. And I have a lot of hope thanks to that. I have a lot of hope. Because it's very promising what I see. In fact, it has no end. So delightfully boggles my mind. Better than that, it opens my mind completely. But the process of getting rid of paradigms and beliefs, which it was that I had, was extremely painful because And that's when I made my assessments of the psychological implications of religion, particularly Christianity. It's huge psychological implications, and a lot more negative than positive. I can guarantee that. Nonetheless, what I've seen is, like, I've seen stuff 10 years ago when I started seeing stuff, but now it's on a whole nother level. Anyway, I'll leave you with that thought. And the last piece of advice is everything is okay. Reality is so much more than what we've been told it is. And things aren't so doom and gloom as we would believe. We are more free than we seem. We are more free than we believe. We are not stuck. We're not bound. We are very much free. And that's why I feel unafraid of death anymore. Not to say I'll die or anything, but I don't feel afraid of death. And I'm grateful for that because it gives me a chance to focus on life. So you got to die before you die so that you can live before you die. Well, I felt like I died every single day for a year because I went on a journey of a fucking lifetime. And I was not sure if I'd make it back. Many times. And I had to be my own psychologist. Every single step of it. Because there's no ways I'd be able to go to a psychologist and tell them what I'm seeing and experience. No, they wouldn't get it. And then they'd give me some bullshit answer and then that wouldn't make sense to me and then that would fucking psychologically screw with my head so much more. But I found many answers. Many answers. That I'm very happy with. And the more the fact that I'm at this point right now is a complete and total miracle, to be honest with you. So I'm very grateful to be in a better state of being, presence, mood. Because it was a freaking rocky ridge mountain ranges, guys. Whew. Bottomless pit. Oh, bottomless pit sucks. Bottomless pit of despair and fear. And I had so much fear. So much. And I thought it was fear I had acquired over the duration of my entire life, which it had been, but other elements involved as well, and certain beliefs cemented that fear within me. I suppose the fear within me is a sort of feeling that I'm not happy with the answers I've been given. And I fear that if I have to believe what I've been told by everyone, that's not going to give me the answer I need. And I've always been correct on that. It's almost like an inner knowing inside of me, telling me the truth. And that's always been something that's been very important towards my happiness, because if I ever felt like that was being threatened, I would not like to go that way at all. But I've just had a feeling that there's so much more to this than what we've been told. And not only did I feel the way, but I saw it and experienced it for myself. And I was, after all the fear and stuff, eventually I started to become very delighted and happy at the fact that I was able to provide my own answers and have my own experiences ultimately. Because if I never had my own experiences, it would have been very hard for me to believe any of the things I believe right now. It would be excruciating. So I'm very grateful for the experiences, and I welcome them. I just know now that they don't have to be so terrible because I don't have to be in such absolute fear. You know, our fear kills us. It leads us into danger. It ruins everything. It gets us to do things that are not correct. Give me 1 second. One second. Okay. So yeah, I love humans. I just I don't understand them many times, and I do not tolerate evil at all, and that's something I feel in my heart. I don't. I do not tolerate it at all. I will not stand for it. I will not permiss it. I will not be a part of it in any shape or form. Never. Because in my core, I feel, no, that's not me at all. It's wrong. And I think the most important thing within life is being able to feel what's right and wrong. I feel hope, I feel the future, I feel an extremely happy ending, but at the same time, like I feel like certain things need to happen that will probably shock the world. And I'm not going to get into the more grim details, but the point is everyone will be fine. Now I want to look at something real quick with you guys here. Well, in China's, oh yeah, I wanted to show you this video. I wanted to show you what's happening in the world. So, if we look over here, I'm very impressed with the Chinese people, you know, and the thing is, all of our ideologies completely demonize these people. Demonize China and edge world war between different nations. It's absolute insanity, guys. And this is also ridiculous. I mean, how are they selling girls freaking babies? Like, why? No, it just doesn't make sense to me. A lot of this human tradition and behaviors, I might be wrong, but it doesn't make fucking sense to me at all.
Of several Chinese following large-scale protests against the government's strict COVID-19 measures. In Shanghai, there's been an increased police presence on the streets this morning. Authorities there are also preparing for the possibility of more protests, erecting barriers in places where people have gathered overnight. The rallies are a rare show of defiance against Chinese authorities, with some protesters even calling for President Xi Jinping to resign. But there's no sign the harsh restrictions of his zero-COVID policy will be lifted anytime soon.
This is an extraordinary moment in China, and it's spreading further and wider. In cities right across the country, hundreds are taking to the streets, angry and fed up with the government's zero-COVID policy. Here in the capital, Beijing, they lined the banks of a river for several hours, many holding up blank pieces of paper, now a symbol for this growing unrest and an act of defiance in the face of Chinese censorship. In Shanghai, another outpouring of anger, and something different that will concern not only China's ruling party, but also its leader. Amongst the crowd, one protester shouts out, down with Xi Jinping. They reply in unison, step down. It's dangerous to criticize the government and its leader here, and such a public challenge is extremely rare. So there's no surprise when police move in and detain protesters. These latest protests were sparked by the deaths of 10 people in a fire at an apartment building in the city of Urumqi, with accusations that strict COVID restrictions were to blame. Vigils to remember those who died there are now at the...
I highly doubt that, by the way. We know what the real reason is. I'm not gonna get into it. Power outages have been an issue. I believe that the power is going to cut out all over the world, to be honest with you. Houston issued boil water notice following power outages to water plants. It's just the thing is that they've hit the critical mass. There's no ways that they can go on like this. It just will not work. A lot of power outages all over the world. Yes, there are some in Ukraine. Anyway, have a look for yourself. Uh-oh, look at that. Total trip. That's the end of this video. I would say look out for the power outages. Look at the cyber attacks and look at the protests, because I believe every country is going to be like China at a certain point, to be so totally honest with you. I think this is the start of something huge, and the people will no longer have to deal with this nonsense anymore. It's really as simple as that. So thank you very much for allowing me to entertain you. Hope you have a great day and chat soon.